Welcome to the Beyond Jiu Jitsu Podcast. This is episode 134. And if you are on the video version, whether it be on Spotify or YouTube, you would notice something different. We are recording remotely for the first time. No, I'm not in Sweden or Canada yet, but we are running a test run, if you will, about remote recording. So you can see the inside of Adam's apartment, and you can see my beautiful studio backdrop.
Okay, Kieren, all professional. What is up, guys? Welcome to the podcast. As Kieren said, this is our first remote recording. I don't want to go to Kieren's house anymore. It sucks. Yeah. So we're going to do a shorter episode today because, well, mainly logistically, we don't want to sit here and crap on for 2 hours just for us to find out that the recording didn't work or the upload didn't work or whatever. But yeah, we're in preparation for some things to come. And for some of our more frequent listeners, you would already know why we're preparing to remote record, but we'll go into more detail as to why.
Yeah.
So you can, as Kieren said, you can see the back of my apartment, super professional studio I've got set up here. It'll look nicer in the future as we continue to do this. But yeah, this is already feeling very weird, Kieren, doing this remotely webcam. Used to not even necessarily the face-to-face of it, but just it's very weird having seeing you stare straight into your camera and like you're talking to the camera, because we often, for those who have been watching us for a while, we record and you and I sit face to face, but the cameras are like off to our side, recording. So neither of us are staring straight into the camera typically when we do the podcast. Whereas now it's a bit more staring straight. Well, I'm not looking into my camera because it feels weird, but
yeah, it does take a while to get used to. Like when I first started recording myself to the camera, every time I looked at the camera, it would be, you'd have this weird feeling. It's almost like you would trip up on your words more frequently. And I see it all the time when I film for clients with my videography company. Whenever the cameras come out, people just freeze up. They just get nervous. It's, they could rattle on about this topic for hours and hours, but as soon as the camera's in their face, they just freeze like a deer in headlights. Yeah. But after a while, man, you get used to it.
Well, it's not even that it feels weird for me to look and talk into a camera. It's more that, I'm looking at the monitor where the image of you is rather than looking at the camera where there's no image. Yeah. It's also weird because I said to you right before we started recording, when we record in person, you hear yourself in your headphones. And so you get, in the beginning, it seems very odd when you're not used to it, but then you get used to it hearing yourself in your own headphones. Whereas with this setup, I'm not hearing myself in my headphones. So it almost feels, I don't know, it feels like we're not recording, feels a little bit odd, but But anyway, we'll get the swing of it.
What's to come on this episode, though? I think we're floating around the topic idea, the title idea, rather, to be something along the lines of topic smash. So basically the concept here is we're going to add in a whole bunch of different topic ideas into the one episode, sort of like topics we want to talk about, but don't really warrant a full episode, or some of them, they're like a response to our previous episodes. So we're going to be talking about things like dedication to jiu-jitsu, a little intro to what's coming up on the podcast and what to expect with this whole new remote recording, etc. Some marketing, and we're going to go over ecological teaching again and reply to some of the responses we've had on that episode. I believe it was episode 132. So go listen to that if you want context for that part of the episode. But let's get straight into it. So in terms of what's coming up, we've just given you the preamble as to why we're remote recording, why the video quality will be a little bit different. But essentially the reason we're doing this is I'm moving just for about 12 months to Sweden. I'm going there for 12 months, and in a couple of weeks, I'm going to Canada to visit Jordan from Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu. And we are going to look to do a recording when I'm in Canada as well. So this sort of setup will help us facilitate that. And I think, I mean, I haven't really spoken to you, Adam, about this, but in terms of like setting up this new remote system, it's going to be easier to bring on guests. Like we bring on guests from time to time, but it's like people we know, or in the case of Levi Jones Leary and Alanis, when they were in Sydney from New York, we brought them on because they could come into the studio.
Exactly. They've all been in person.
Exactly.
Yes. We've never had a remote guest. And, but, you know, not because we've been against having a remote guest, but I don't know, it just wasn't the setup we had. But yeah, we hadn't spoken about this, but, you know, I kind of put two and two together as well and thought, yeah, well, it's obviously going to be easier now that we have a remote setup for us to do, you know, remote recordings with a guest as well.
Yeah.
Which opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
I don't think we'll, like, in terms of this as being transparent, I don't think the podcast will ever turn into a predominant guest interviewing podcast. That was never really the intention. And there's a lot of those. That's the general format of a podcast these days, right? Where it's like the main host or main hosts in this case, and they interview other people, right?
Yeah.
And most jiu-jitsu podcasts and most podcast formats are set up like that because it lends to, you know, interesting episodes and yada yada. But that was never really our intention.
No, I'm not interested enough in other people for that. No, yeah. I mean, yeah, happy to have guests on from time to time, but yeah, it's just not the structure that we went with. But yeah, we'll facilitate that when the time comes to have a remote guest on. But yeah, we want to continue the podcast while Kieran's in Sweden. Mainly because I actually don't want to continue the podcast, but Kieren was like, "Oh, you become a bit of a father figure for me." So I was like, "Oh, okay."
This is like my counseling for the week. Yeah, but it's going to be interesting. You mentioned this when we first like announced that I'm moving to Sweden. Is when I go, it's not like we're going to be in the same training room every day anymore. It's you know, these podcast episodes, the catch up at the start isn't going to be like forced because we just spend like, you know, hours and hours throughout the weeks, like, you know, catching up, and we can bring stuff up like, oh, you mentioned this on Monday or whatever, but it's more going to be like, hey, how's your training been this week, blah, blah, blah. So that will be an interesting new dynamic. And when I come back, sorry.
Oh, we knew this would happen.
Yeah,
we knew there would be a little bit of latency and cutting each other off and being like,
yeah,
but exactly like you said, it's not going to be forced, you know, although it could go the other way. It could go, well, now that I don't see you every day, I've realized that I really enjoy not speaking to you every day. Yeah, but, you know, like you said, all the little things of saying, oh, you mentioned this the other day or whatever, you know, there'll also be, obviously we'll have, you know, dialogue through WhatsApp or whatever throughout the week. But yeah, things that'll come up where you'll be like, oh man, this happened in training, and we can almost on the spot be going over a technique or something that came up in class or, you know, so I think the new dynamic, if we were crapping on previously for the first 20 minutes of an episode, just rambling shit that had nothing to do with the episode topic, imagine, you know, when we're also doing a catch up in the first introduction of the episode.
Oh man, there's going to be lots of waffling. And I think once I come back, I mean, we might not get into too much details now because no one knows what the future will hold. But I think there might be some interesting developments, you know, over the next like year or so post Sweden. So that year or two post Sweden, you know, I think it would be a really good opportunity for the podcast to evolve even more. So anyway, that's what's going on with the potty. And have you, the pod. Yeah. Have you heard that, like the standard like white guy with a podcast, and it's like,
no,
like referring to it as a pod and the potty and fucking, you know, anyway, it's a meme. It's shit.
No, I haven't. But you did remind me of, out of context, I won't go into it, but if anyone knows of the little skit on YouTube, these Canadians talking about having Christmas pudding.
Oh yeah.
I could go for some pudding.
Auntie Donna.
Bit of pud. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I love
anyone
Auntie
who
Donna.
knows what I'm talking about, they'll know. Everyone else,
Yeah.
whatever. It's just like a little skit. But pud,
Yeah, type in Christmas Pud or Auntie Donna, and they'll come up. They got a Netflix show and everything. They're great.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, man.
I
Yeah,
didn't
they're on
even
Netflix.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
right.
it's called Auntie Donna's Big House of Fun or something like that.
Yeah, right.
It's fucking hilarious. I love that type of humor. Okay, so the first topic that we're talking about, this does feel a bit weird. The new format. It doesn't
Fucking
quite...
terrible, Kieren. I hate it. I hate it.
It's gonna take a couple episodes.
Hate seeing my face.
I'm not digging it either. Like, I've done a lot of these remote recording podcasts because I've been on a decent amount of other people's podcasts because I'm a little bit famous. You know how it is.
Yeah, you're quite famous.
But
I
so I'm kind of used to it. But
I can't seem to get rid of my image. I can make it a bit smaller, but I'm like, just fuck off. I don't want my face there.
Yeah. Even I don't want your face there.
Yeah.
But so what spurred? So you came up with this smash topic today, with the can't teach dedication. Where does that come from?
It comes from Chadwick.
Ooh.
One of it's just really funny. I love Chad so much. He's a Canadian guy who trains at the gym, and he's just such a Chad, bro. He's just such a Chad.
He's such a Chad.
He's the best Chad. And and like I'll say something to him. I don't know. Maybe he'll do the double, as in like trains both classes in the evening back to back.
Since when has he done a double?
Yeah. Like very, very rarely. And I'll be like, yeah, good training tonight, Chad, like good rolls or something. He's like, and he's always calls me boss, and he's like, yeah, thanks, boss, blah blah blah. And then it'd be like, boss, you can't. Or I'll say something like, Chad will be in the gym, and I'll call out because it's a quiet class, and I'll call out like, why is nobody training this bunch? Everyone's soft just because it's a hot day, 35, 38 degrees or whatever. And Chad's like, man, you just, you can't teach dedication. I'm like, that's right, Chad, you can't. And then the next day, like, he won't train, and I'll be like, hey, Chad.
That's classic Chad.
I'll be like, I guess you're all right. You just can't teach dedication.
Yeah, that is classic Chad.
Yeah. And then coincidentally, so that's actually how the last 2 days played out, right? So like on Monday was super hot. And I don't even know if Chad said you can't teach dedication, but it's the sort of thing he says it all the time. And and I had a couple of rolls with him, and actually in the middle of the class, he was even like, actually you didn't train Monday either. And then he was like, wait, hang on, I can press buttons now.
Oh, you're worse than me.
And he was like, he even said to me in the middle of class, it's not like I had a particularly tough role with him where I put smash on or anything, but he's like, coach or boss, he always calls me. He's like, did I do something to upset you, coach? It's like, no, why? He's
that's
like,
his classic.
It's like, just, but yeah, it was super hot on Monday.
Yeah.
And not many people did train, but I was ripe for the picking. Like, I even had one student say to me, they were like, that's the most tired I've ever seen you in the gym. I was cooked, man. It was so hard. And then yeah, and then I trained last night too, and fucking Eric, man, fuck
Eric.
I tell you, he's so funny. Like, I was rolling with him. And for those who don't know, Eric's just a big, very naturally gifted guy in the gym. And I gave him like a millimeter. I just conceded a millimeter. And then Eric just like broke my foot. And I said, oh, Eric, I'm not real happy with that. We'll have to go again. And
it's like revenge, your typical revenge.
And then I went for the revenge roll. But then it was like it's as if Eric was like the student had become the master. Because it's like Eric was like, just let him have whatever he wants. It's like Eric didn't even try, and then I walked away being like, "Subbed Eric 10 times."
Yeah,
but really, I know Eric was just like, "Yeah, whatever."
Yeah, that's how to deal with the revenge roll.
Yeah,
but see, whenever if ever I get a revenge rolled against, like if ever
it's a compliment.
It is, but I also try even harder. Because
yeah,
if
I know
I can
you do.
shut down,
Yeah, yeah.
if I can
If you
shut
can
down
shut-
your revenge roll, bro, I've never ever had that experience, and one day I will.
One day you will.
Revenge roll, and I will shut it down and get you again, and you'll have to like have a hard think.
Yeah, that'll be a
Call
rough
me
day.
out for the double revenge.
The double revenge. Yeah, I won't be looking forward to that day. Yeah, but Eric is, man, like
He's good.
Eric's gotten to the point where essentially, if like giving Eric a bit of space, or you know, giving him something, not as in like, oh, I gave him a triangle, but as in like, oh, just
Being lazy or being careless. Yeah.
dude, you essentially have to roll with Eric like it's the finals of a comp. Or
Yeah, you gotta be on the-
smashed. Like that's
gotta be on
it's
the
like
game.
it's like Toby, right? Like not because I mean Toby's very physical and aggressive in his roles, not aggressive like malicious, just very physically aggressive. And Eric's not necessarily like that. He's just very good and strong and dominant. And you pretty much have to bring like comp roles with him. And that's even for me, someone who's his size and a black belt. Eric's a blue belt. It's like, man, if I don't roll with him as if it's a comp, right? And like if he'll just start to manhandle you, you know, you don't even have to dial it, but you dial it down from 100% to 90%. And that little 10% opening crack for Eric is enough typically. But anyway, fuck Eric. So I got a little off topic. So yeah, talking about dedication, and then coincidentally that you know, I came across a bit of a clickbaity video from BJJ Fanatics, which was titled what was it titled? Let me bring it.
It was blue belt to black belt in 2 years.
Yeah, how to go from blue belt to black in 2 years, Mikey Musameshi. And I didn't watch the whole video. I watched like the first, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 minutes. So I saw that and instantly was like, oh man, is this an instructional? Which I don't believe it is, unless they got to the end of the video and said, buy my instructional on how to.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was, to be honest.
Maybe. But anyway, I clicked on the video and it more was just rather than how to go, it was more, hey, Mikey, how did you go from blue to black? So it was more just talking about what that looked like for Mikey. And this was also, I mean, Mikey's the most successful American BJJ grappler in the gi, having won 3 world titles. And we're talking about in the gi, so then we're talking about IBJJF regulations. And back when Mikey did it, they didn't have the regulations that they have in now, so you can't do it in 2 years anymore. You know, like IBJJF wouldn't let you compete at said belt in under 2 years because you wouldn't have done the time requirements. But yeah, man, it was just such an absurd amount of dedication. Like he was saying that during this time, you know, like he won worlds at each belt every year, right? Like blue belt worlds, and the next year purple belt worlds, next year brown belt worlds, you know, right? And then black belt. And yeah, he said he was still in high school, so he would wake up at like 4 a.m. to drill with his sister before school, then go to school, and then spend all afternoon, evening at the gym. And it's almost, let's imagine it were a course. Like, let's imagine Mikey selling how to go from blue to black belt in 2 years, which, like I said, I didn't watch the whole video, but I didn't get the impression from the first 4 or 5 minutes that I watched. It was, more just a conversation, Bernardo asking him what his life was like at that time. But let's imagine it were a course. I almost feel like it'd be like saying, if I decided to sell a course, being like, how to become a savant. It's like, man, like you can't.
How to get autism.
Yeah. Like you can't teach that sort of, I mean, you can teach people and you can learn to be more disciplined and focused and, you know, things like that. I mean, you coming from a military background would know, like, you learn a lot of discipline and focus and things like that. But, you know, that sort of level of obsession, which with a lot of high level professional athletes, or professionals in whatever they do, it's almost like a mental health issue. I jokingly say that, but like you can't teach someone to be that obsessed about something, and you need to be that obsessed. Like, even look at esports, right? Like, for those who don't know, esports, like professional video game playing, essentially. I love playing video games, but even me, someone who enjoys playing video games, like professional esport players, you're talking about guys doing what the stereotypical loser who plays video games does, where they're 18, 20 hours a day, every day playing video games, right? And even I like playing video games, but you couldn't pay me to play that many video games. Whereas these people are doing it at the chance to go professional and then win prize money. Like, they're not getting paid yet. I mean, okay, there are some, right? And again, for those who don't know, there's now millions of dollars in esports, particularly in countries like China and South Korea. Mm. But these, like, you couldn't pay me to play even an 8-hour day of video games. Yeah. Could I do that, like, for those first couple of days of when you're on holidays or whatever, or if you've got an injury and you're taking some time off? For sure. But long term, could you pay me to have a job that is just playing video games? Fucking no, right? Like, so going back to Mikey, you can't, like, what he didn't do anything special other than putting in an absurd amount of hours and being obsessive about something, to the point that, probably, I don't know if it cost him personal relationships, but he probably didn't have as many friends and girlfriends and whatever, or, the toll that comes with that level of obsession to something. And 100%. I don't care what instructionals you sell, you can't teach that to someone.
You can't teach that level of dedication. And you mentioned something really interesting that I want to drill down on in the mental health thing. It's kind of like that much dedication can almost be a detriment to mental health. Everyone's heard, or most people listening to this have probably heard the phrasing like jiu-jitsu saved my life. And that is true for a lot of people. Jiu-jitsu for a lot of people is that thing that comes along and gets you out of a dark place, like helps you get back on track, teaches you discipline, instills like a sense of purpose through this thing that you've found, jiu-jitsu. But for some people, and Jeremy Skinner talks about this a lot, and for those that don't know Jeremy, he's been on the podcast, ADCC, last ADCC, he competed under 66 kilos. And
he's also fighting the up-and-coming Subversion.
Yes,
Equinox
he's
against
main,
Ash Williams. He's the headliner.
He's the headline for that. He's on the main card.
That
headliner.
is, I believe, so that'll be the weekend that this episode comes out, I believe.
I think it may have just been and gone. But
Kieren, don't do that to us.
No, it will. It will be this Saturday then, because yes, this will come out, and that event is the following day. This is your last chance to watch it. It's on in Australian Eastern Standard Time. I think it starts at like 8 p.m. on the 18th of March.
Super shitty commentators on that event, though.
Yeah, terrible comment. I wouldn't even bother with it. It's going to be excellent. Adam is commentating, so if you want to hear more of Adam, and I expect there to be
more
Beyond Jiu Jitsu Podcast shout-outs.
Shit.
Yeah. This is Ashiwaza. Adam, that's a rear-naked choke.
Every time something comes up, we'll be like, as we say on the podcast, on the Beyond Jiu Jitsu Podcast, we call that De La Hiva.
This reminds me of that one time we're talking on the Beyond Jiu Jitsu Podcast. Download now. Yeah. But the point I was trying to make is Jeremy Skinner mentions the opposite of that phrasing, which jiu-jitsu ruined my life, right? And the reason that he says that, I think it's half in jest, but, all good jokes come from a place of truth at the same time. Because of how obsessed he got with jiu-jitsu and how dedicated he is, to compete at that ADCC level. He's a professional athlete. Like, there's no question about it. He's a professional jiu-jitsu athlete, and the amount of sacrificing, the amount of dedication, and it's a long road, particularly if you look at his journey, right? He started jiu-jitsu at 16. Instead of pursuing anything at like university or college, he pursued jiu-jitsu. And at this point in our lives, because we went to high school together, we're the same age. We're turning 28 this year. At this point, all of our peers from high school and all of our friends, reaching that mid-level management and starting to make serious money, progressing out of the introductory level of job that they got from university, and they're starting to, really make something career-wise. And if you're looking at your life on the flip side of that in a jiu-jitsu career, it's a lot more unforgiving, if that makes sense. It's a very hard journey financially. It takes a substantial physical toll on your body, and the reward isn't financial, at that level, unless you become the 1% of the 1% in terms, and we've spoken about this before, in terms of like the likes of Gordon Ryan or Craig Jones, and you have something outside of jiu-jitsu competing prize money to earn a living. So I get where he's coming from when he says it ruins my life at the same time, but I don't think he would trade it for anything, but still.
Yeah, it's it can be a double-edged sword, the jiu-jitsu.
Mate.
She's a sneaky mistress. Yeah, but it's I don't know, man. It's as long as people aren't slinging shit trying to sell that, because there's nothing you could assemble the Avengers of the jiu-jitsu world, and you're not going to be able to teach people how to go from blue to black belt in 2 years. Like it's not some, there's no secret formula.
Look at Nicky Rod. Nicky Rod's still a brown belt.
Yeah.
Nicky Rod, a two-time silver medalist.
And he's training for 5 years.
Yeah, right? He's been training for 5 years. He trains twice a day, every day.
Look at him, right? Like, so Nicky Rod is currently one of the best heavyweights in the world, and say what you will about him or whatever. I don't care whether you want to sit here and be like, oh, but he's on gear, or, oh, he greases, or what. Oh, man, whatever.
Yeah.
Heaps of people are cheating. Everyone's cheating at the top level, right?
So it's okay. Right? You heard it here first. Okay. It's okay to cheat.
He's still, like a 2-time silver medalist at ADCC, which is crazy. Belt. I mean, one of the current regarded as best no-gi grapplers in the world, in Craig Jones, is also a 2-time silver medalist, and he's been training for 5 years. Imagine like someone, imagine someone who's slinging a get from here to here in 2 years course needs to be like, Nicky Rod needs my course. He's still just a brown belt. Fuck off, bro. Yeah. I mean,
when I first started jiu-jitsu, I got hit with a fuckload of this YouTube ad. It was the same guy. It was a fat bald guy standing on a beach trying to sell you an ebook which gets you from white to black in under 3 years, was the title of the book. And look, like at the time, naive white belt, I bought 10 copies. No, but in all seriousness, I didn't touch it. But still, like at the same time, he would sell that shit like hotcakes. Imagine how many motherfuckers would start jiu-jitsu, see that ad because all of a sudden their interests, they're typing in white belt sweeps, white belt submissions. They're fucking
how to tie a belt.
How to tie a belt. Boom, target ad. Boom, boom. Get these motherfuckers. Yeah. But like, imagine how many people would buy that, thinking it's legit, not knowing anything else, thinking that it's similar to karate. And this guy's selling fucking snake oil. Yeah, he did it like years and years ago, before there was IBJJF regulations. And that's another topic that IBJJF regulations probably don't count for shit anyway. But the point is that it gets to a point, like with this specific guy, I don't really know much about him, but he never competed at ADCC. He's never... I don't know his name from anything else. It's not like, it was the likes of GSP or a well-known name. I'm not saying you have to be a well-known name, but it's fucking snake oil. At least if you're going to sell that course, at least have some like comp cred behind you. You know what I mean? Like,
let me give a couple of like parallels or analogies. Like, firstly, a book like that, you would, there's nothing you can teach jiu-jitsu wise. So for example, let's say you wanted, said, oh, white to black belt in 2 years, white to black belt in 5 years, or whatever it is. It's almost everything in that book could be very valid and accurate, but the title is incorrect. Like, it should be something along the lines of, how to have a mental shift when it comes to training, or, how to remain dedicated. Like, that dude selling the white to black in 3 years, that you would probably, instead of his book, what would actually get you to black belt quicker would probably be reading David Goggins' book. Look at me mentioning David Goggins, right? Like, what can you teach in, like, there's nothing tangible in terms of jiu-jitsu related. Like, oh, this is the technique that has been passed down from, grandfather to grandfather, and this is how we all do it. Like, it's essentially changing the way you would think about, like, dedicating and training and rest and recover, or whatever. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Imagine,
mindset,
and the problem is when you label it like that, because black belt is actually like a reachable goal for, I know in previous episodes or topics I've talked about, there's some people who will never make it to black belt. And yes, that I agree with that, because some people don't have it in them. It's reserved for people who, you sacrifice more than just the average. But, like, black belt is a very real, achievable goal that lots of people can make it to. Lots of people can't, but more people can't than can. But so when you read it as how I did this, blue to black, blah, 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 people go, okay, well, that's an actual goal. Imagine if what's his name? The mountain. Bjornsson or whatever it is. Thor, right?
Thor Bjornsson.
Yeah.
Bear son.
So when you see Mikey Musumeci, blue belt to black belt in 2 years, it's like I said, well, you may as well teach a book how to be a savant, how to get autism. Imagine if Thor sold a course saying how to deadlift. What was it that, like, Eddie Hall first did the 500 kilos and he did 501 or whatever. Imagine if he sold a course, how to deadlift 500 kilos. It's like, no, man, there's 1, 2 people in the entire fucking world who can do that. If you sold a book, how to deadlift more, right?
Yeah.
Or, how to lift heavier, that's different, right? But, like, saying how to deadlift half a ton, it's people like maybe make that same association with, like, the black belt, like, I know it's a stretch because obviously more people can make it to black belt than lift half a ton, but you know what I mean? Like, people should be selling, whatever, how to get better at jiu-jitsu, how to get the most out of your training, how to progress faster, opposed to saying how to get your black belt in 2 years.
But the thing is, white belts aren't going to buy a book that says how to get better when you have a book that says how to get your motherfucking black belt, y'all.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, people are going to be buying that one. And I face the same problem when I make content. Like, I have a series of videos that I cop shit for some people. Anyway, the videos, the premise is basically jiu-jitsu doesn't make you fit. And I use the word fit where I should have used the word jiu-jitsu doesn't, what I should have said in the video, right? And this was the message, that jiu-jitsu has a ceiling effect on the level of fitness you can attain in terms of your VO2 max. So jiu-jitsu has a ceiling effect on your cardiovascular fitness. But getting someone to stop scrolling and watch jiu-jitsu doesn't improve your cardiovascular VO2 max above a certain threshold shown in studies, blah, 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 blah. No one gives a fuck. But if you stop and say, jiu-jitsu doesn't make you fit, and this is why, and then you go into the information, that's a way to grab people's attention. And it's kind of like, is it worth it? Is it worth stating an untruth or a gray zone truth in such a way to get people to pay attention to it because it's going to benefit them anyway? It's like, very kind of altruistic in a way. Like, is it, it's deceiving slightly deceiving, kind of like clickbait, right? If I put out a video that is a clickbaity video, clickbaity thumbnail, and clickbait in terms of its attention grabbing, not necessarily a bait and switch, because that is the true definition of clickbait. But anyway, if I put out something that's attention grabbing, but I truly believe that the information is valuable to the vast majority of people, is that worth it? And I've determined that in most cases, yes, it's simple marketing tactics that allow me to get my message across and will eventually will have a net positive result. Therefore, it's a net positive. And you could say the same with the marketing for these courses. Like, we know people that have released courses like along the lines of white to brown belt in X amount of years because they have done it. Or in the extreme case, the fat bald guy on the beach where he's like, white to black in 3 years. If you can determine that those courses have a net benefit for the individuals that purchase them, then does that justify the marketing? It's not really lies, because that's what that individual did, but the marketing push.
I mean, like I said, I feel like these courses or books, what the information that's in them isn't necessarily a scam, but the way that they're labeled and marketed makes them a scam. It's just,
I wouldn't say it's a scam. I think I don't think it's a scam. And because it would be a scam, and here's my pushback. It would be a scam if the individual that released that book or whatever did not do what they stated they did. It would be a scam if take that fat guy on the beach, right? That his ebook would be a scam if he doesn't train jiu-jitsu. Or if he does, but never achieved a credible black belt, right? If he bought his black belt from Amazon and started using his marketing knowledge to make money, and the information was snake oil, or it wasn't his, that would be a scam. However, by using, in my opinion, if you did go from white to brown in like 2.5 years or something, and you're successful at that belt, I don't think it's a scam. I think that it's strategic marketing that some people might find distasteful because it's not easily replicated by others.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe scam's not the right word, but maybe it's also immoral marketing or something.
Most marketing is immoral, though.
Yeah, that's
when you
true.
really look at it, marketing, and unless you're downright fucking lying, which. That's marketing suicide. But vast majority of marketing tactics, if you just look at them,
not my window tactics, bro.
What a segue. Yeah, let's talk about some immoral marketing tactics. What about you spreading sexual innuendos throughout the very conservative community of Rose Bay, Adam? Talk about that.
Yeah, so I've actually had quite a few people join the gym because of what happens on the windows. So the gym has these big glass windows that face the road and the footpath, and so I started getting liquid chalk, which is these pens that are designed to write on windows, and then it very easily rubs off. Essentially like whiteboard markers for glass, really. And I started writing things on the windows, and
like shopping lists, like to-do items.
Yeah, things. Yeah, my to-do list. So I'll read out some of them, but essentially the idea was, first it actually started with when the rebrand of the gym. I wrote something along the lines of coming soon or
under new
like
management.
It's
better now.
Something like that.
The creepy guy's gone.
And then it's funny because these so what are we? March now. So November, December, January, February. So it's been 4.5 months, right? About of when the gym rebranded. So 4.5 months ago, we left the Alliance. And in the 4.5 months that I've been writing shit on the window, that has brought me more students than the 4.5 years that I was paying money to be with Alliance. Isn't that fucking hilarious?
Oh, that's bittersweet. That is so good.
Yeah. That's
Wow.
great. Did I? Yeah. Anyway. So it started with writing like, coming soon, things are changing. Cause obviously the rebrand was quite a difficult thing to try to nail on the head without just outsourcing and dumping a whole bunch of money into a marketing company, because it was the opposite of when you see at a restaurant or a shop and they just literally put up a sign saying under new management, right?
Yeah.
It's the same name of the business, same product.
Yeah.
And people might just go, oh, that place previously had really shitty customer service. It's under new management.
Let's check it out now.
I might go back there. I still need to go to buy XYZ that this shop sells. Whereas this was the opposite. It was like, the whole brand name and the name of the business and the website and everything changed, but it was the same management, right? So you couldn't just, like, if you didn't try to educate your consumers leading up to it and you just one day they were like, what the fuck happened here? They would assume it's not me anymore. They would assume it's, that Alliance Sydney closed down and someone else moved in, and it happened to be jiu-jitsu as well. So did this very simple sort of marketing campaign leading up to it, which was, I think it was like 9 days out, or might have been more. I can't remember. But it was essentially like every day I would kind of do a post that would be alluding to that something was about to change. So then on the day that officially, the new website went live and all the signs came down and the new signs went up. So there was lots of stuff written on the window, coming soon, change is coming, watch this space, blah, blah, blah. And then after opening, actually on the opening day, I don't know if you remember this, but I wrote on the window, welcome to Alliance, and then crossed out Alliance and wrote Vantage.
Yeah.
If you remember seeing that.
Yeah.
So I started writing stuff on the window just as little humorous things, right? Sort of, I've been trying and still am trying to write something that is jiu-jitsu relevant, that would make people stop whether they train jiu-jitsu or not. And what I mean by stop is look at it and read it and go, what does that mean? Or look at it and have a chuckle or something like that. So I'll read you some of the things that I've written on the window. And I'm sure you'll find some people who say, this is not moral. You can't write that, because I did have someone report me to the local council for what I wrote on the window. But
fuck off.
Yeah, it was
Shove
also
up
just... Yeah. So like, it started with, I just wrote on the window, the best cuddles in Sydney. Right.
That was popular.
And then the one that got me reported was come in and choke a friend. It's fun. So someone reported me to the council saying it's triggering for anyone who's had a traumatic experience getting choked. And I was like, yeah, it's like happens all the time at jiu-jitsu. Anyway. And then I wrote like having trouble sleeping, we can help. It's all in the hips, top or bottom. New year, new me, no more guard pulling. As long as you suck a little less than yesterday. And so I try to change it. Jiu-jitsu, because punching people is frowned upon.
That was very popular.
And then for Valentine. And then so Kieren said some sexual innuendo. So there was the top or bottom. And then I wrote for Valentine's Day that just passed. I wrote, you can start on top, but only because it's Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And then at the moment it's got written on there, that's the best rear naked I've ever seen. So obviously people who don't train jiu-jitsu go like, what? And they might
the
think
amount of
like
people that stop and take photos of it.
Yeah.
So many. Like I'm at the gym a lot, and I see so many people, like young, old, fucking men, women, whoever, teenagers, just stop, whip out their phone, take a photo, and start immediately sending it to someone and texting someone.
Yeah. And so I've had, I don't know, maybe I've had more people join the gym than the two I'm about to mention, but I had two people specifically say to me that the reason that they joined the gym, or at least the reason that they initially came in to check it out, was because they kept seeing these funny messages written on the window, or they essentially just, with seeing the messages, went, oh, this is probably a pretty friend, these people seem to be pretty
Chill.
Pretty chill. This
Yeah.
seems like a nice, friendly place to come in, and a less intimidating place to potentially walk into.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's pretty moral marketing. And I guess it started not even as a moral thing. I just had these pens.
It was a joke. Yeah. It was like, fuck
it was
it.
like a joke. And then it sort of went with it. And now I try to change it once a week. If
now you take sponsors and you write like messages. You got an email list, and it's all coming along, man. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a link to my ebook.
Yeah, yeah.
Photo of me as a fat bald dude on a beach.
That was you, you bastard. You tricked me. Yeah, bro. Yeah, no, I think it's really smart, and you got like your Instagram handles, it's framed with like a box around it, so it looks pretty cool. And
I put it. I mean, the one I did today, I posted on Instagram. It's quite hard to take photos of because you get
the reflection
of the glass, so it doesn't really come out as a nice photo necessarily. But it's it's I think it's pretty funny. I quite enjoy it, and as the idea is to push it as far as I can
without getting reported to the council.
Yeah, well, to be fair as well, that guy that reported me, I checked with a lawyer only because one of my students is a lawyer, so I just asked him in conversation. I didn't go.
Shout out to Josh. Was it Josh?
Yeah, with Josh, and he checked also with his boss. Well, Josh used to work as a criminal lawyer. He's no longer a criminal lawyer. But then he also checked with his old boss, who's still a criminal lawyer. And and he was like, man, like tell that dude to go suck a fat one. There's nothing like racist or anti-Semitic, or it's essentially satire, and it's within context. Like it's there's nothing.
Imagine that phone call. So I've consulted with my legal counsel, and I've been advised to inform you to suck a fat one.
Yeah. But I mean, look, at the same time, the last thing I want to do is upset people in my community. And so I change it every week anyway. Yeah. And I change it every week anyway. So it didn't cost me anything to just change it as soon as someone didn't like it, But the goal is to push it as far as I can without obviously, not getting reported or whatever. But I don't want it to get to a point, I would never want to take it so far as to have a parent who's potentially thinking about bringing a kid into the gym and go well, I'm not taking my child there, because of what, something super offensive that's written on the window, or God forbid, imagine if you had a parent pull their kid out of training because of what's written on the window. But I've never had
crazy,
that. All the parents, most of the parents and the kids, especially the ones who just train once a week, they come in excited to see what's on the window this week. And they come in giving me ideas. Oh, you should write this, blah, blah, blah. And, how funny would it be if you write this? And their suggestions are pretty dog shit, but I mean, if they come up with a good, if they come up with a good one, I'll put it on there. But that's my marketing. Write stupid shit on a window.
Move over email marketing. We have a window marketing. Let's go.
That's right. And scientifically proven to get you more students than an alliance affiliation.
Does this count as window shopping, or is that something different?
Can I press the button now?
Yeah, press the button.
Press the button, bro. Shit.
That's a good place to end it.
Yeah, guys. I mean, like Kieren said at the start, a little bit of a just kind of semi-catch-up episode, but also a few topics that didn't necessarily warrant a full episode, and we wanted to test the new setup. Definitely didn't want to do a whole really important episode and then have the recording fail, and so just wanted to keep it to a short, bit of a messy episode, but hopefully let us guys know if I don't know, we run some tests, the sound quality's good, and besides my shitty backdrop, the camera quality's good and everything, but by all means feel free to let us know if it didn't come through on your end, if the setup was not up to the standard that you're used to from us.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this it means that the recording probably worked. So
Yes, there's a good chance that means it. Someone's just sitting there 30 minutes in and they're like, I wonder when they're going to start talking.
That's happened before. I uploaded a fucking version of the podcast where there was no audio. I accidentally muted the audio before I exported it with my editing software. People were commenting, really sick audio on this one. Yeah, I love this topic. It was great. And all these like trolling comments until I was like, oh, nice. We get good feedback. And then I realized like half hour later that the fucking audio was down with someone private messaging me like, yeah, bro, you got no audio on that one. Anyway. Shit.
Yeah, guys. Well, you know the deal. You can catch us. All the links and whatnot are in the description. Instagram at Beyond Jiu Jitsu _podcast is the easiest way to send us direct messages most of the time. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.
See ya.